Welcome to Proven and Probable. I'm Maurice Jackson, and joining us for a conversation is a legend in the uranium sector, responsible for over 7% of all of the domestic uranium production in the United States. He is John DeHoya of Strathmore Plus Uranium Corp, which is a Wyoming-based uranium explorer. Mr. DeHoya, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here. I always enjoy these talks.
Well, great to have you back, as you have some remarkable news for shareholders, as Strathmore Plus has just released the interim drilling results from Phase 1 of the 2024 exploration program at Agate. Before we get into the press release, for first-time viewers, please introduce us to Strathmore Plus Uranium Corp and the exciting opportunity your company presents to the market.
Well, Strathmore Plus came about, a couple years, 2.5 years ago or so. Dev Rendhauer gave me a call and said it was time to start up a new company, and he wanted me to come on board and be a vice president and find some uranium, so to speak. And I said, Dev, not interested in working. I've been retired for 8 years, but I'll help you all I can. And with that, I became a technical advisor, ultimately went on the board, take on more responsibility. But our goal, Dev's and mine, when we put this together, was to find more uranium. We wanted to add to the resources of the world. And we didn't want to buy properties. We wanted to find them. And granted, we have found old abandoned properties, but the resources for those have not been calculated. They have not been published. They're not in the resource category for any of the world. So that was our goal. And he said, well, we need properties and we need a geologist. So we identified Mr. Terrence Osier as our VP of exploration. And we added the Beaver Rim property first. And then Terrence and I talked, and I said, the Agate property, it wasn't known as Agate at that time. It was a property across from where I mined about 22 million pounds. And I had watched them for years back in the 70s, drilling over there. And sure enough, Terrence checked it out, and some land was open. It's next to other locators in the area. But the part we had didn't have any resources known. Well, we went out, did some work. And then I said, I remember another property, and that was the Night Owl property. So we found it, added it. So we've got Beaver Rim, Agate, and Night Owl. And Dev's and my thoughts when we first did this was that we wanted to focus on ISR. And that's a great way. I think it's the future right now. But we have to remember that conventional mining is still out there, and a lot of resources aren't available, or amenable, I should say, to SI or ISR recovery. But anyway, that's how we founded it. That's what we have. And we've been fortunate enough to raise enough money to go out and start exploring these things, and have been successful in what we have found.
Well, we're going to talk about that success in just a minute, but just for our audience members to better appreciate today's results, would you please clarify, because you just referenced ISR, how the grade and depth of intercepts for ISR mining versus conventional hard rock mining and processing, what are those differences? Are we comparing apples to apples or apples to oranges?
Well, you're comparing apples to apples in that we are recovering uranium, which has basically the same sales price, whether it's conventional or ISR. However, the methods and the costs differ tremendously. And the permitting requirements. The first ISR mining was actually done by the company I started with, Utah International, in Shirley Basin back in the 60s. And that's where it got its start. It was successful. I was able to study it for about 2 years in an open pit situation. But anyway, what you do with ISR is mobilize the uranium with a solution. But let's just call it water for simplicity today. And with conventional mining, you have to remove overburdened a waste material in the ore, and you have to excavate and mine that ore, transport it to a mill You have to build a big processing facility, and the toughest part is the tailings disposal. That's for conventional mining. With ISR, we put some wells into the mineralized zone, pump a solution into that zone, dissolve, so to speak, mobilize the uranium. It's how it got there. Nature transported this uranium with groundwater, and now we're using, quote, groundwater to extract the very same mineral. So with one, you have to, the exploration part is similar. Underground is usually deeper than open pit or ISR, which means you have much more expense in digging a shaft. But with one, the conventional method, we're looking at removing a lot of waste. Our strip ratio in Shirley Basin was over 21 yards per pound. That is a huge investment in dollars. The GTs, I don't know for sure that we ever used GT in open pit. We did an economic analysis of the stripping ratio versus recovery and mill costs. Underground, we always had 6 foot of 10/100ths. Well, you can imagine why. We had to go through anywhere from 800 to 3,000 feet of overburden waste with a shaft at the cost of multi-millions of dollars to remove ore and move it to the surface and to a mill. So you have a huge cost per pound of uranium. With ISR, we're pumping water. So, we have a fairly low cutoff. GT there, much lower than either conventional or ISR, or for ISR. So we have a very low cost, much lower cost method to extract the mineralization. We can use GTs that are fairly low, and when you're doing ISR, it's nice to have the thicknesses. So we're not moving the dirt. We're just pumping water. And as we all can relate to, our water bills are fairly low compared to bringing in concrete for a driveway. I think we can all identify that difference. So apples to apples for mining uranium, apples to oranges for extracting. The economics are just many multipliers less to ISR extract.
Well, thank you for highlighting those distinctions and competitive advantages that you have among your peers. Let's go on site. Mr. De Hoya, take us to the flagship Agate project, where your team has hit mineralization in 57 of 60 holes drilled. That's pretty remarkable.
It is.
Well, beginning with hole 151, what can you share with us?
Well, 151 is back in the north area. We started in the south area this year because we had not explored it. But 151 has 11 feet of 079. I'll just call it 08 just for purposes of this discussion. And it's 95 feet deep. So not only are we only pumping water down and back, it's only 100 feet deep. These are very, very inexpensive wells to drill. We can use plastic type materials, PVCs, for well casing. When you're at that depth, it's just not very critical. There's not much pressure on anything. And let's just take this one, for instance. The GT on this hole is 0.869. Now, that's a pretty good GT, no matter what you're mining. If you recall, our underground cutoff was 0.60, 6 feet of 10. So we are at, call it 0.9, 30 hundredths more than the GT that we would have mined underground. And, just a rough calculation, at the highest confidence level for a hole like this hole would contain almost 11,000 pounds by itself.
Yeah, if I may interject here, ladies and gentlemen, when the man responsible for 7% of all the uranium production in the United States, when he's smiling as he's speaking, look at those nonverbals. He's sending you, decode the message, if you will.
Yeah, I have bought high costs during my mining career, and believe me, you don't like them. When the costs overrun the predicted costs, the mine managers in your office, the superintendents in your office, Everybody wants to know what is wrong. And being a geologist in a situation underground or open pit and not having your GTs to support you, pretty tough. Well, this is a fairly low-grade hole. We would not look at a hole like this with a lot of interest unless it was in a good area. With ISR, this is a beautiful hole.
Well, that's encouraging to hear. And Strathmore has also discovered a new area of shallow mineralization just 1 mile south of the northern trend. Take us to holes 143 and 147 and share with us what your team discovered there.
Okay, well, all these holes are in the similar part of the roll front trends. They're out in front of the roll. Good thicknesses, continuous mineralization. It's not limb ore. We used to call it just prior to reaching protor, but I don't hear anybody talking that term anymore because you don't see ore or mineralization with ISR. You just see water. You're on the surface. You don't disturb anything. So this is in the roll area, in front of the highest grade intercept. We're searching for that intercept right now. And this hole, anyway, let's get to this hole. 14 feet of 046. Well, that doesn't sound like the best hole in the world until you do the GT on that. It's 0.644. That exceeds the cutoff grade for underground mining.
Oh, that's important to note.
We don't have to move dirt. We pumped water for this. It's thick. We can saturate the zone. I found it in my study when I excavated a previous ISR project at Shirley, the thin intercepts tended to get washed out. The solutions would go through them. They'd channelize. They did it in the other ones too, but when you have a big thickness, you get a chance to saturate that zone and extract most of the mineral. Anyway, this hole in itself, like I said, at the highest confidence level would have over 8,000 pounds. Just by itself. 147, this was an eye-opener. This is when Terrence and I both said, my gosh, there's something in this south area. And it's a mile south of what we drilled last year. This was basically a new area. No other drilling around it. We had 15 and a half feet of 051. The GT on this one was 0.79. In other words, there's nearly 10,000 pounds contained within the area of influence for this hole. That's pretty good.
Oh, those are numbers I can get with all day long.
Yeah, because you could multiply 10,000 times the projected cost of uranium and have a pretty good idea of what you'll make on a hole like this.
And especially with the surging price that we've seen in uranium, which we believe will be a trend in the future, the virtues and the catalysts seem to just coincide at the right time in the right place here for Strathmore Plus. Now, based on your success on your Phase 1 program, how will these results impact the remainder of your drill program?
Well, the remainder of our drill program at Agate, we've got a lot of drilling left to do. Part of it is core holes for equilibrium studies. Part of it will be the installation of monitoring wells and piezometers so that we can do amenability studies. We can do all this type of work that we are going to have to do. So we're very happy with everything that we're seeing. We still have 40 holes. Well, we had 40 holes yesterday. I think today we have probably 32 holes left to drill for exploration right now, this part of the year. And then we go to Phase 2 in the fall. So we need to get this drilling done, come in-house, get our feet on the ground, figure out where we need to go. When you're just out punching 8 holes a day, there's not a lot of chance to think. And this is, when the drill rig's standing there at the price they charge, you can't plan a lot. You have to have it in your head to start with. And then when they start hitting, it's hard to react. So we need to take this information back into the office, analyze what we've got, and lay out holes. And we hope to do the next phase in the fall after our Beaver Rim drilling. We are going to try to get some piezometers or monitor wells in this next week or so.
Now, I see your team also staked 15 new claims. What can you tell us about the new claim locations and what piques your team's interest there?
Well, when Terrence first went out and staked this. I thought, well, it's a pretty good piece of property. It's close to other folks near the road. And now that with the program that we've implemented, we find out that this system, this trend where we're at, hasn't been looked at. The first part, when we went to the north, Terrence extended the northern extent about 50% from what we had done last year. So, to expand the size of your target 50% is a nice bullseye. And
that's an understatement, by the way.
It's open on the east and the west. So we added claims on the south because we found the south mineralization. We're adding claims down there to pick up more of that. We're adding it on the east and a little bit to the north there because we feel that the trends are going off what we currently have into other unexplored areas. And obviously, we want as much mineral as we can get.
Well, before we leave the agate, what is the next unanswered question on the agate? When can we expect an answer, and what will determine success?
Well, success is economics. And you have to have enough mineralized holes to have a resource that is mineable, worth the capital investment. Now, the one thing that helps us out here is our neighbor, UR Energy, has announced a build-out, and we have talked with Mr. Cash, and I believe we'll have some sort of an operating agreement so that we can avoid the permitting and operate capital costs of a processing facility. Now, we'll still have to draw our well field. We'll still have to extract. We'll still have to bring the material to Mr. Cash on the other side of the highway. We'll probably be able to truck it. Not a lot of infrastructure going to be required. It's a paved highway that separates us. We're probably 6-7 miles apart. There's power there. A good location. So, that's our main impetus right now.
Well, it sounds like will be a strong symbiotic relationship and a win-win proposition for all shareholders involved. In closing, sir, what keeps you up at night that we don't know about? Business related.
Well, it's all, I hate to say it, it's all business related. Politics. And I don't mean Republican, Democrat, Libertarian. I mean the politics of energy. I've been through 5 cycles in uranium now since I started. And 3 Mile Island pretty much ruined our second boom. Chernobyl certainly didn't help us. Fukushima did not help us. And the outfall from that with the public, hence the politics of it. This is my true concern. It does keep me up. I've watched the uranium industry suffer several times because of it. It's a very safe industry. It's a good fuel source. It's good energy. It's clean. This is a green energy. Now, we were just talking a while ago, we're not moving dirt. We don't have tailings facilities with ISR. We do have some waste, no question about that. But we now have a good, clean way that's being perfected to access and produce the uranium. And I'm sure you are aware, Mr. Bill Gates has started a program in Wyoming to develop a small nuclear reactor with a different type of cooling system. And I believe that 20th, he's breaking ground in the Kemmerer area of Wyoming for a new type of reactor.
Well, looking forward to those developments. Well, last question, sir. And by the way, I echo all those same points that you just you referenced there. And a lot of it has to do with education, and that's what we're here to help facilitate. Last question, sir. What did I forget to ask?
Well, I don't know that you forgot anything. You already hit on me. I mean, I'm smiling because I love this project, and I'm very optimistic about Beaver Rim. I think the question I would say is, how come nobody discovered this in 50 years ago? Well, let me tell you. They would send us young geologists out with a drill rig to do assessment work. That is, we had to spend so much per claim. And we weren't trying to find uranium. They already knew where it was. It was more development than exploration. And nobody put the time, effort, and money in wasn't necessary. We were sitting on 40 million pounds, or actually 50. We've already extracted 50 in Shirley Basin on the east side of the highway. The west side, we all had claims, Kerr-McGee, Petrotomics, Utah, Lucky Mac, Pathfinder, and all we had to do was just go out, punch some holes, and spend some money. Well, we knew where it was, so we developed it, but it wasn't an exploration program. Beaver Rim was almost totally ignored. It was deeper. We had, 100 million pounds down in the gas hills, a couple miles away. There was no reason to explore and find other properties. So I guess that's the question I would ask. How come this wasn't discovered before? Wasn't needed?
Well, thank you for the
money.
Thank you for the clarification, sir. You know, I enjoy listening to you. You're like an encyclopedia, and I think many of our audience members are thrilled about the proposition of uranium, but in particular on Strathmore Plus uranium. Well, Mr. De Hoya, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Wishing you and Strathmore Plus uranium the absolute best, sir.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking.
The information presented on Proven and Probable is provided for educational and informational purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose. The information is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice, or any other advice. You should not make any financial, investment, or trading decision based on any of the information presented without first undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or competent financial advisor.